Alrighty then, everyone. It is Dokkan time again today, and today we'll be going over how to build the new Dokkan Fest STR cell. So, as you can see, I'm being lazy right now and not popping up the green screen. I apologize. Please do let me know in these days of when I'm super lazy. Do let me know if you would prefer my face right here like this, or if you would prefer perhaps maybe the avatar to pop up. You know, just let me know which one you prefer. Maybe the avatar isn't, friendly enough for you. But anyways, just let me know in the comments if which one you prefer when I'm being super lazy. Or just tell me to stop being lazy and pop up the green screen. Either one's fine. So I'm actually just going to pop up the avatar just because. So, boop, there I am. Or, well, my avatar. So unfortunately, websites are not fully updated at the time of recording. I have to record this a little bit more ahead of time than I would like to. Normally, I would record this on like the Dokkan Info website, give you more proper details, and I still will. It's just not translated properly. It's only in Japanese, and I'll still go over that over there, but we're going to go over the English official release on the Dokkan Twitter site. So we're going to go through the breakdown of Cell, and then we'll go into his defense details. And then after his defense details, we're going to go ahead and go over his roll tips. And then that'll be it for the video. So, but also, I do want to throw one last thing out before we really get started on here. This cell should not be considered to be used as a leader. You can, but I just wouldn't suggest it. We'll go over why. There's going to be some questionable things, but please just watch the video. If I had a nickel for every single time I had a question asked about why would you choose to do that for his build, and I explained it in the video, I'd have a lot more nickels, and I would probably be able to have a lot more nickels. Anyways, so Cell here is an STR type. His leader skill is Tournament Participants or Worldwide Chaos category key +3, HP 200% and attack and defense of 170%. And then he'll give an additional 50% of HP attack and defense to the characters that are also on androids or accelerated battle. I don't have a problem with the accelerated battle and androids HP attack and defense 50% boof right there. But I don't feel like tournament participants is a good leader skill for him. Worldwide chaos, yeah, for sure. But tournament participants is already kind of a meh category in my opinion. There's dedicated leaders for those kind of surrounding units for those specific areas, and I don't feel like Cell really fills or puts in a good spot right there, personally. But anyways, let's get into his kit here. So, he has an entrance animation. He can only activate this when the Tournament of Participants category enemy or another Tournament of Participants ally is on the attacking turn with him. It only has to proc once, obviously, but you just need at least one tournament participant, either enemy or ally, on the rotation. So, with that intro going off, this is with the intro going off, and I do want to point out a couple things into his intro here. He gets a 50% chance to perform a crit with his intro. Yes, this is permanent right here. This is a permanent buff. So as soon as you activate the intro, this stays permanently. And same thing with launching an additional super attack. So no matter what, this cell is guaranteed to have a 50% chance to crit and an additional super at all points of time. So no matter what, he's a double super, even at 55%, he's at 55%, he's critting at a 50% chance. So that's pretty good. And then he does have a domain too. A domain that activates the Cell Game Arena for 5 turns. 5 turns is actually pretty generous. We've been getting a lot of 3-turn domain effects, and I'm actually kind of happy to see a 5-turn one pop up. It actually does help him, and it is probably the biggest argument to actually still use him as a leader. Basic effects are as follows. Key +2, attack and defense of 200. He gets a damage reduction rate of 20%. He launches an additional attack that has a 70% chance of becoming a super attack. So that's just his basic effects. When there is a tournament participant and enemy, he gets an attack and defense of 50%. When attacking with 12 or more key, attack 150. And for every attack performed, defense plus 30% up to 150. So that would be a 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So that'd be 5 attacks need to happen until he gets fully built up. 5 attacks isn't that bad. 5 attacks. That's key wording there, folks. Meaning it does not need to be a super attack, meaning normals will activate and proc this. When the character is KO'd, he revives and fully recovers HP. That's awesome. Usually we've been getting revives with like 50% health, 30% health, 70% health. I like the full HP recovery. That's nice. After the character or an ally's revival skill is activated, he'll get a damage reduction rate of 30% temporarily when receiving a super attack. So basically this means is that he just gets an extra 30% damage reduction if he is being super attacked. After the character's revival skill is activated, damage reduction rate 15%, and guards all attacks. Now, I do need to get into this with y'all. This is a bummer. This is really a bummer here, and I wanted to explain this, and let me just show you what I'm explaining here. So, when this launched, I immediately saw that this whole thing was procking up, and what I did was I went to one of the actual people that kind of know what they're talking about when they look at a character's kit and they understand the wording. And basically what I asked was, I asked Proton 10 MG, does this imply he only gets the damage reduction guard if he himself revives and not if an ally revives? And this specific thing was after the character or an ally's revival skill is activated, he gets that 30% damage reduction there. But you'll see right here, after the character's revival skill is activated, he gets the damage reduction of 15% and he guards all attacks. Now the thing about this is that it specifically is saying the character's revival skill. Whereas up here, you can clearly see after the character's revival skill or an ally's revival skill. Meaning that if a ally's revival skill activates, this right here will not activate permanently. Proton did actually confirm this. That's exactly what it implies, which makes him using as a double leader an inevitable nerf to at least one of them. It's very unfortunate, and unless he actually like reconfirms it and this isn't true, or maybe somebody can get some actual, I don't know, once he releases officially, which at the time of after the time of recording and posting, you should have seen him release. Maybe this will be changed, and if it does change, I will make a comment down below in the video if this actually was changed and it does activate even if a revival skill of an ally is activated. But as of right now, by keywording, this cell does not get this extra 15% damage reduction or guard unless his revival skill is activated specifically. So do remember this moving forward with this cell, is that you do need for him specifically to revive. Otherwise, he will not have his full kit activated. So, with that being said, let's see here. He does have his active skill. He does have an active skill, which is Deadly Showdown Begins. That's where he does the little finger movement there in the beginning of the Cell games when he fights Goku. He can activate this when HP is 70% or less, or starting from the 4th turn from his entry turn specifically. What this means is from his entry turn is like if he pops up on turn 2, his 4th turn from his entry turn is going to be turn 6. Active skill effect is Ki +2 in attack and defense of 35%. Now that's pretty big buff, I'm not going to lie. And I'll be real here, he doesn't have the most great of links either. He's only got Gentleman, Message in the Future, Kamehameha, Big Bad Boss, Shocking Speed, Ultimate Life Force, and Fierce Battle. The only links that are getting him any real key and that are going to activate is pretty much Shocking Speed and I believe it's Messenger from the Future, which are both giving Ki +2. Now even if he gets those Ki +2, that means he's only a Ki +10 if you have both of those activated. More than likely you're only going to have Shocking Speed activated. So he'll be sitting at Ki +8 the entire time, which means you're always going to need to get him 4 Ki Spheres. But if with activating his active skill, he'll pop up to 11, and that won't be too bad. So I can see in certain instances he could be struggling a little bit because, I mean, he's a Big Bad Boss extreme unit, so I mean, not every extreme unit shares Shocking Speed. And that's his weakness right there, is the Shocking Speed. You want to pair him with a unit that has Shocking Speed specifically and Big Bad Bosses. So if you're looking for a partner for Cell, this is the requirement I feel, is Big Bad Bosses and Shocking Speed, because there's not that many great cells. I mean, there really isn't. There's not too many to be using right now, except for the super easy A cell. His categories aren't terrible, but he doesn't have a 220 lead. Or at least he doesn't have a good 220 lead that you should be running him on, because he just won't fit along with the team. You can always throw a unit onto a team, but it doesn't mean they synergize with the team. So he's got some decent leader skills, and I'll go over that in the roll tips once we get to it. His super attack is just greatly raising attack and defense for 1 turn. That's it. He doesn't have any special effects. He doesn't stun. He doesn't steal. He doesn't lower attack or defense. He doesn't support allies. He doesn't do anything. Cell is very bare bones. I gotta say, this dude is pretty bare boned. It's very interesting that he's so bare boned. I'm honestly quite thrown back by it. Like I said, this is kind of like improperly translated, but he does have all of these different 200% leaders in here. But I mean, the primary ones you're going to be wanting to run him on is honestly it's just going to be Majin Buu here. It's going to be Majin Buu, Super Buuhan. Is going to be Buuhan or Fat Buu. Those are his only viable leaders other than himself. And himself is kind of a tricky leader because if you double run Cell, if you double run this guy, if you double run him, this means that you will have to be very wary of which one is getting the revive off, because it means that one of the cells, either yours or the friend, will not have this damage reduction of 15%, and he won't have the guard. And I think we all care about this guard a lot more. But yeah, that basically nerfs one of the cells on the team, because you can only revive once. You can only revive once, which is what hurts this unit the most. So, but anyways, with all that being said, let's just kind of go over, and we're just gonna go over, if I can freaking stupid thing there, buttons, Twitter. Okay, Halvard here with his defense numbers. So these defense numbers are going to be a little janky. They're going to be a little all over the place. I'm going to tell you right now that you're not going to have these defense numbers naturally all the time. And this is considered at Rainbow, so do adjust accordingly. If you only have Cell at 55%, knock off like 2 to 400k off of these numbers at least. If you have 2 dupes, you know, maybe knock off like 200k or something like that. Always remember that each dupe is roughly about at least 100k defense on start a turn at the very least, and that will drastically affect his post-super game. So the reason I was saying that was because this is a unit that has intro, this is a unit that has domain, this is a unit that has an active, and all these play a key role in his defense numbers. Primarily the domain. The domain is 5 turns only. Yes, if you double run Cell as a leader, he'll have that for 10 turns, technically speaking. Which for normal sized content, not long content, that's perfectly fine. But in a weird case scenario that you're taking this Cell into a longer term fight, not festival, by the way, do not take this guy into festivals. You know, you're going to run out of this domain in some fights. And when you run out of this domain, you're going to lose a large chunk of defense here. I mean, if you just look at his intro difference and his domain, you have easily a 200 to 300k difference. That's a large amount of defense, my guys. And it does matter. It does matter. Because yes, with active, he's looking clean. He's looking good. He's looking nice with active and then fully built up. This is all with active and domain and everything fully activated, full build up. Yeah, this looks fantastic. But you take away the domain, this defense post super is probably less than 1.5. It's probably closer to like 1.2 if you have like only a dupe or less. So just keep that in mind, that like even fully built up, he can look pretty pitiful. But the good news is that he does have a guaranteed double super. So guaranteed double super does help out quite a bit. So even if you knock off 400k right here, 2 million's not bad. 2 million's actually pretty good. And then if he gets a triple super and you knock off even 500k, that's still 2.5. And if he was the one that revived, then that means he has guard and he's got a good amount of damage reduction on supers. So this is a unit that is going to drastically feel different based on the amount of time, based on full buildup. You know, if max possible defense nearing 5 million defense, you know, fully rainbowed, links activated, support on the rotation, 220 lead with domain active. I mean, it's a whole bunch of, there's a whole lot of ingredients to make this guy look good. But the difference between him on turn 1 before buildup and revive and domain versus revived, full build up with a domain active are just night and day. This cell is night and day on defense wise, and I can confidently tell you that he is technically a slot 1 unit, but if he doesn't revive, he himself doesn't revive, you can't put him in slot 1. Like, he can double-digit tank 6 million supers after post-revive, but if he doesn't revive, then he's not tanking crap. It's all about that revive. But, anyways, I think I've been going over this a little bit too long here, so let's just kind of get into his builds so I can go to sleep. Anyways, so starting off with the 55% build here. Minimum, as per usual, just be his level 5 crit. I'm not putting it in there because people are confused when I put minimum in there. Level 5, I would just put in an additional orb and then give him a defense orb. That's all that's going to really matter. Otherwise, his 55% build is largely irrelevant, in my personal opinion. But moving on from the 55% build, we'll go on to a 1 dupe build because popular demand. Because you can get 1 dupe, you go bottom right. He can get up to a level 9 additional. If you give him a level 5 silver additional, that'll pump that up to level 14. A level 9 percent chance to level 9 additional is 18% chance to additional. Pumping that up to 5 at level 14, that immediately pops him up to a 28% chance to additional. I would say it's largely irrelevant if you give him dodge or crit. I think it's largely irrelevant. I think the biggest issue I have with giving this guy crit is the fact that I don't think he necessarily needs it. I don't think he necessarily needs crit. He does have a 50% chance to naturally critical, which is just it's just a thing that, like, I always put on my units is like, if they have 50% chance to crit, then just leave them with the 50% chance. They don't need more chance to crit. This cell's not going to be doing a crazy amount of damage. He's not. His chance to the damage he's going to be doing is anywhere between like the lower ends of 15 mil, and then fully built up he could get up to 20s and 30s. Can he do a crap ton of additionals? Yeah, of course he can do a crap ton of additionals. He can do let's see here, 1. He gets his initial. Then he's got his intro, so that's 2. That's guaranteed double. His basic is a 70%, so that's 3. And then his hidden potential would be 4. So he has a chance to quad super, but guaranteed to do a double. So, do I think he needs the crit? No. Does the crit help? Of course it does. It always helps. But largely, I don't think it really matters one way or the other. Specifically on the level 3 dodge, I know there's a lot of people that live by level 3 dodges. But this is also a unit that needs to die. Cell needs to die. He needs to revive. So giving him even a 3 dodge could potentially ruin your entire run because he needs to die. If he doesn't die, then, you know, he just takes a crap ton of damage, and then a unit that you don't want to die ends up getting hit and dies. Then, yeah. It could just be a recipe for disaster. And I'm sure it'll change potentially in the future. But as of right now, I would prefer not to give him dodge, personally. With that being said, we'll move on to the duped up version of him. And I would say just put as much additional into him as you can. So level 15, as he has an STR type. Put the rest into crit, or you put the rest in to dodge. Entirely up to you. I think it'd probably be just a little bit more beneficial if you just said screw it and gave him the extra crit. And not take the wild chance of him dodging and not reviving when he absolutely needs to revive to be better. So, entirely up to you. User's choice. This is a 1-player game, so just remember that. It's entirely up to you. But regardless of what you choose for the extra stuff to be thrown at him, I still suggest gold equip and silver equip being additionals, and then just give him a defense orb. There's not really anything that's really going to be super crazy about the bronze. You could even give him another additional if you really so choose, if it really behooved you. But, you know, defense, attack, HP doesn't really matter overall for this guy, I don't feel. So, with his build suggestions being out of the way, we're going to go into the roll tips here. And because I did forget to mention it in the breakdown, ironically, he does have the domain. Like I said, I did say he did have a domain. I just didn't go over the domain. So His domain is tournament of participants, enemies and allies, attack and defense 15%, and androids or android cell saga category enemies and allies, attack and defense of 15%. So if they're on both of these sets of categories, that's a 30% buff on his domain for 5 turns. With that being said, best slot position is 100% going to be slot 1. He needs to revive, though. If he doesn't revive specifically, then he doesn't need to be in slot 1. He needs to be in slot 2, or he needs to just be floated off and just used as a domain basic unit. As far as leader skills go, I don't suggest him as a leader right now. You can use him as a leader. I could have propped it onto there, but I didn't. He definitely can be a leader, but I do feel like this cell is going to be one of those units where it's like, it does hurt to run 2 cells. So, as of right now, I would not suggest 2 cells. Leaders are just going to be Fat Boo, Buhan, Android 21, and Glorio. I think Glorio would probably be the overall best one to be running with. Maybe Buhan. It's either Buhan or Glorio. I don't suggest Fat Boo actually either that much, only because his revival skill will get in the way of him reviving. So technically, if Cell revives, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't hurt Boo. Boo gets his revive effect no matter what, as long as someone else revives. But the problem I have is if Boo revives, then it ruins Cell and makes him worse because he can't get his revive effect off. But anyways, as far as his best partners goes, it's just going to be the super easy A cell. This AGL cell that transforms is actually going to be getting his easy A very soon. And then Buhan, of course, is a very excellent partner because he has big bad bosses and then he supports. And then I still threw this LR in cell into there just in the very, very, very wild hopes that one day he'll super easy A and you can still throw them both on the same team. But probably not. So, but I think, honestly, I think that's it. There's not much else to say about this cell. I do think he is good. I don't think he's what we wanted right now. I think you could skip him. I do think you could skip him. Although, I'm probably undermining his usability with that domain. I'm sure we're going to get some fight in here that's going to be forcing us to want to have a copy of him. But I'm sure the Dokkan community will nafangle some way of getting around it, as they always do. I doubt he'll be a Jiren situation where you need Jiren on the team. But yeah, just remember that with his revive, he only has guard in that extra 15% right here if he himself revives. I did make sure that I checked that with Proton, and he did agree and say, yes, that's exactly what it implies. Does this imply he only gets the damage reduction and guard that he himself revives and not if an ally revives? And he said that's exactly what it implies, which makes him a double leader on an inevitable nerf to at least one of them. So just keep that in mind when you're using this cell. If you summon for him, do let me know if you did summon for him and how you decided to build him. Did you actually decide to just give the rest of his hidden potential into crit, or did you throw in the dodge and hope that he doesn't dodge to the super that gets him the revive? Anyways, thank you for watching, everyone. Have a good day and a good night.